What Kenya has in abundance is a long and colourful history of rallying, and the second round of the 2008 KCB Kenya National Rally Championship rekindled old memories when it returned to the very roots of the sport, Embu.
That's where the story of safari started at Isaac Walton Inn, when you get a few drunkards with their Cortinas and VWs. After taking one too many, they say, okay, let's compete. My car is much more powerful than yours. And that's how the safari was actually born in those years of the 50s.
Embu lies 150 kilometers to the north of Nairobi in the foothills of Mount Kenya. It is best remembered by safari rally veterans as being the end of the nightmare section from Meru. But the area has been avoided since the late 80s due to the increased population, which made rallying on the open roads dangerous. In retrospect, the organizers of the KCB Biashara Banking Rally were over-optimistic that the roads could be made safe, especially with the locals not having been exposed to the considerable speed of the modern-day rally cars. This would eventually determine the outcome of the event. At the pre-event check of the cars undertaken at the Triton petrol station at Kutus, there were already mumblings over the safety of the event.
You need to really build the confidence to really go out for it. The amount of traffic and the human population, we've seen animals and donkey carts, it's a bit worrying.
You just worry about the odd kid or cart or old man crossing the road that's not too sure how quickly we're going.
It's a very highly populated area. There are going to be a lot of people out. It's Sunday, it's church day. You know, as much as the organisers are going to try and close the roads, I think it's physically impossible to do it in such a highly populated area.
All this aside, the competition was expected to be fierce amongst the front runners, with each hoping to gain an early foothold in the championship. The organizers had laid on a demanding event comprising 210 competitive kilometers split into 13 stages.
A very exciting event, fast, smooth, and a very technical rally, which they have not done for the last 5-10 years. This is one of the rallies where everybody will be pushing, and I believe they'll be fighting for seconds, right from the word go. Yeah.
The rally base was at the Isaac Walton Inn, a landmark in the area. Built in 1948, it's a well-established haven. It's around the bar that a bet all those years ago led to the safari rally and to what rallying in Kenya is today.
It is one of the first hotels in this region of Mount Kenya. Most of the people who used to stay here were the former colonial people, and they used to fish just around River Robingase.
Embu is a small but sprawling commercial town, and right in its center, adjacent to the only clock tower, is the KCB branch, and it's from here the rally started. It was a ceremonial start for the benefit of the thousands who turned up to witness what was for them a huge spectacle. First away were Baldev Chaga and Farak Yusuf in their Triton-sponsored Subaru Impreza M12. The first stage of the rally was only 300 meters from the start, a spectator special held in the Embu Stadium. Being at the center of the town, over 20,000 turned out to watch. It was one of the biggest events ever held at the stadium, and certainly the only one of its kind. As the cars each took their turn on the 1.2-kilometer circuit, the massive crowd watched in awe, cheering the cars on with enthusiasm. The biggest cheer was reserved for Ian Duncan, whose bulky Ford Mustang needed more room than the track offered. They lost 30 seconds to the leaders to be placed 22nd. The field was eventually split by 35 seconds, with the faster crews putting on the best display. This is Martin Gitata. The top three were separated by seconds, and it was Baldev Chaga in car number 1 who would be placed third. In second place were Carl Tindo and Tim Jessup, who were only 1 second slower than the winner. That accolade went to Asad Anwar and Frank Gitao, who drove the car around the course like a speedway racer. The fastest classic was the Datsun 240Z driven by Romy Bamra and Habinder Jatli. And the quickest two-wheel drive were Limi Karienye and Kimeli Korir in the Toyota Levine. The crowds were disappointed when it was all over, heading for home in a jubilant mood. The cars were held overnight at the Isaac Walton Inn before the rally proper the following day. As Baldev Chaga with Farak Yusuf lined up at the first control, they were tense, the uncertainty of what lay ahead. With the rally being run on open roads, a route opener had been sent on ahead, but nevertheless, as the road sweepers, they would be faced with balancing their commitment and speed against caution. The route would be challenging, comprising nearly 210 kilometers split into 13 stages. All these stages would be repeated, with a short Kavunguri to Karingari stage attempted 4 times. Of most concern were the 2 longer stages which at the end of the day would account for 75% of the route. Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup were the 5th car in the running order and immediately took advantage of their position to storm through the stages. They were quickest over stages 2 and 3, and by the first service after 60 kilometers of competitive motoring, were in the lead by 43 seconds. Surprisingly, it was Baldev Chaga and Farooq Yusuf in second place. Despite their disadvantage, they'd been amongst the top 3 through each of the opening stages, even winning stage 4, but they were far from happy.
The stages are beautiful. I'm thoroughly enjoying the stages, but the traffic is dangerous. I mean, we can't commit. Every time you get into a bit of a rhythm, you feel like, no, there's something over that brow around the corner.
In third were Lee Rose and Piers Dakin in the Triton Mitsubishi Evo 8. They had been more cautious than the others and were not fully committed. This reflected in their times, which placed them over a minute behind. Azhar Anwar and Imran Khan were running in an elderly Mitsubishi Evo 6, and despite pushing it to the limit, they could not match the speed of the front runners. They were in 4th, but nearly 2 minutes behind the leader.
I'm trying quite hard, although I'm not settling well into a rhythm. It's quite exciting because it's a new area and they're quite technical, the roads to drive, so it's a lot of effort on the driver's part and mistakes are showing up.
The fire in Asad Anwar and Frank Gitao's N10 turned out to be minor, but having not completed a rally since they purchased the car, finishing this rally was a priority. To achieve this, they were not taking any risks and drove at a pace that was comfortable but far from competitive. They were in 5th, 3 minutes behind.
2 rallies in a row I haven't finished, from finishing all 10 last year, so I need to finish.
Under normal circumstances, even in the Ford Mustang, Ian Duncan and Amos Sludge would be challenging for the lead. But they'd backed off in favour of being safe, ending the first loop only just hanging on to 6th place. With 1/3 of the rally complete, Carl Tindo had opened up a lead that on the short stages would be almost impossible to close. With the time gap so wide behind, positions were already beginning to look final. Safety issue had been real, all the cars encountering oncoming traffic, especially the road sweeper whose frustration was plain to see. The problem was widespread, and even the back markers were faced with traffic around blind bends. The first to face the issue with consequence were Himashu Shah and Alfil Khan, who rolled at the end of stage 2, avoiding pedestrians on the road.
When you came to the corner, there were two public. The public was there, the people on the road. And to avoid missing them, we went sideways. And the two people, instead of going on one side, they crossed each other again. One was going left and one was going right. And again, to avoid them, we had to go into the ditch and we rolled.
In service, the leaders were concerned about repeating the stages and were even considering withdrawing.
It's just ludicrous.
There's no awareness.
I'm not even driving at 50%. I just can't
Absolutely.
make head or tail of what I'm doing.
No, I have had bits and pieces, but luckily they're firstly vaguely aware that there's a rally going on, and secondly not in places where it would have affected. You know, you could see them. But if Baldy and Lee say this is and we're pulling out, I'll pull out.
For now, it was agreed that the rally would continue, but as the cars left for the next loop, Ian Duncan's Mustang remained behind, having decided to withdraw. The next stage was only 8 kilometers long, a narrow, tree-lined track. It was sprint specialist Lee Rose who was quickest, but the time gained did not alter their position, and they remained in third. Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup were second fastest, and having stayed ahead of Chaga, they easily retained the lead, gaining another 4 seconds. Baldev Chaga and Farag Yusuf had in fact increased their pace, realizing that if they could catch Tundo, they had a chance of winning. They were now fully committed and set about reeling in Tundo, but halfway through stage 6 were flagged to a halt by a marshal bearing the stop and help sign. Up ahead, the route opener had crashed into an oncoming car. There were no serious injuries, but the rally was brought to a halt and the section cancelled. The rally resumed on stage 7, another short stage that took the cars past a spectator point ideally located on a hairpin. Short stages had not been long enough for the results to change, although Sushil Shah had replaced Duncan for 6th place. The rally was at a crossroads, and with all the cars in Parc Fermé, a meeting was convened to discuss the remainder of the event.
We now just really have to take a decision and your views on how to go on about the rest of the rally. But what have you got in mind? What do you guys want to do?
Can we stop now then?
I'd like to go out and do the 6 and the 8 and then finish.
All right, do the 6 and the 8 and finish. And everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Steward, Chris is our steward. Chris, this is the request. Are you with us? Yeah, man. We're going to do 8, 6, bring them here, and take them back to Isaac Wharf. Okay.
This meant 5 sections of the rally were cancelled, reducing the competitive distance to just 88 kilometers, enough for it to be declared a championship event. For the majority of the competitors, the rally had been like any other, with the focus being on a result in the best place possible. The little Daihatsu Special, nicknamed the Dudu, in view of its size and sound, amazed the bystanders. Martin Gitata and Elijah Muredi drove the car like a bullet to finish 14.
Yeah, something seems to have happened between the last rally and this one. So I don't know which is which. They seem to have some more energy, so there could be still something I haven't done.
Anthony Nielsen and George Joroga had to miss the start and spectator stage the previous day when the engine failed. A replacement was brought from Nairobi and changed overnight. This meant they started the rally with a 6-minute penalty. Having seen their potential in the last event, Ben Mushemi has now lent them the car for the season.
I was caught off guard by Ben asking me for a drive, so we did one rally and then we decided, okay, that was not too bad. So we've done another rally, it's not too bad. So let's see how it goes. We're not sure yet. Hopefully we'll do the whole championship, that's what we want to do. Yeah.
Whenever they passed our cameras, they were driving on the limit, posting impressive times. They finished the event in 9th place, but without the penalty, they would have been 6th. Another crew still learning the ropes are Quinton Mitchell and Sonny Wasson. This was only their 2nd ever rally, and 7th overall was as good as it gets this early on in their rallying career.
It's fantastic. Really nice stages. We haven't had anything major happen, just the pedestrians and everything that's been a bit of a worry. We found one bump which was unseen, but I think everybody else has found it as well. Certainly saw Ian's landing. But no, it's been great.
Sushil Shah and Abdul Sidi would finish 6th. They had a trouble-free run, but being on the edge of the front-end battle had driven on the side of caution in favour of championship points. The Yana-sponsored Toyota Celica GT4 driven by Jaswinder and Ravi Chana were lying 8th. Then the rear diff blew. This is when it happened. They managed to crawl out of the section, but they were out of the event.
We then radioed to the service crew and they brought in a diff for us. We've just changed the XL. So we've just changed that now. The organizers have asked us to do the route opening. So just as a good gesture, I said, okay, I'll do the route opening for them.
The most impressive performance of the rally must be reserved for Aslam and Faraz Khan in a Ford Escort RS. They were trying so hard, but they not only won the classic category, but also came 8th overall. In the old days, the Escort was a familiar sight when the safari passed through Embu, making it one of the few cars the locals could relate to. The two-wheel drive championship being run at the back of the rally was an event all of its own. 5 cars were taking part, including the 2007 champion Jasmeet Chana, who had declared he was out for the crown again. Charan Tati and Neil Agarwal led the group away from the start, heading for the 7 stages that made up the two-wheel drive itinerary. Limi Karienye and Kimeli Career punctured on stage 3, opting to continue to the end of the section on the rim. They were off the pace on this rally, and the time lost would place them in 4th. Leonardo Baresi and Kigonto Kuredi had an uneventful run through the stages, finishing 3rd after a well-paced rally. Now that the car has proved to be reliable, they can be expected to be more competitive as the season unfolds. Newcomers Charles Hinga and Evans Mwenda were tackling their 2nd ever rally, and they were facing the competition head-on. They were quickest over 3 of the stages of the day, proving that with little more experience, they can look forward to a strong season. They finished 2nd for the 2nd consecutive rally.
Yes, I'm trying to push it, though it was a bit rocky today, so I didn't push it as much as I would have loved to. Yes.
Jasmeet Chana and Randeep Khalsi in the Yana Tyres VW Golf are in a league of their own in the category, and as long as the car remains reliable, they will be the crew to beat throughout the season. They were only quickest over 2 over the 6 stages tackled, but were not fully committed, and just maintained a quick enough pace to win by a margin of over 2 minutes.
A lot of traffic in the roads. We were not driving 100%.
every corner had a person standing, we were not committed.
Following the cancellation of the 5 stages meant the two-wheel drives covered nearly the equivalent distance as the main rally. Jasmine Chana won the two-wheel drive category for the second time in as many events. The scenery along the route was stunning, and especially the many waterfalls that, if the drivers had had time, were well worth stopping to enjoy. The area is also well known for its abundant trout fishing from the many rivers that flow down from the peaks of Mount Kenya, but that would be for another time. For now, the cars were still being held in Park for May whilst the organizers made arrangements for the last 2 stages, and for the new route opener to report back that the sections were clear. The 2 stages only amounted to 15 kilometers, which was unlikely to change the leaderboard positions. In fact, there were changes to the leaderboard. Anthony Nielsen's stunning drive through the last stage, which he won by 15 seconds, moved him from 10th to 9th overall. Then there was the battle between teammates and brothers Asad and Azhar Anwar. When they left service, they were only separated by 11 seconds, but Azhar in car number 5 could not match his brother's pace and would end the rally in 5th, having lost the race by 7 seconds. Asad Anwar with Frank Gitau had made a last-ditch attempt to gain the advantage, driving in flamboyant style, using every part of the road available. They would finish 4th, but watch as they nearly go off on the last bend of the event. Lee Rose and Piers Dakin only had to maintain their steady pace. They were in a vacuum 90 seconds behind the car ahead and the equivalent time ahead of the car behind. At the end, nothing had changed and they finished 3rd.
No, I haven't tried at all today.
So 3rd is not a reflection of what you could have achieved?
No, not at all. Not at all. All the same, I wouldn't have gone any faster happily because of the circumstances.
Despite Baldev Chaga's last attempt to catch Tundo, it was not to be. Tundo beat them through both closing stages, forcing them to accept 2nd. Once again, the Triton team were both on the podium.
I'm very pleased with this result. Winning would have been a bonus, but it didn't happen, but it's understandable. But we're very happy. We've got Triton podium again, 2nd, 3rd.
Despite the rally having run less than half its distance, full championship points would be awarded, giving Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup good reason to hold on to the lead. They were fully committed and not only maintained the lead, but increased it by yet another 9 seconds. The finish of any rally is always a time for celebration, and whilst the crowds waited outside the KCB Bank in Embu, the comedy group Zangalewa were on hand building up the atmosphere. Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup are the reigning champions, and this first win of the season would go a long way towards their retaining the crown.
Yeah, it's fantastic actually, especially up here in Embu. My dad's always said it's fantastic rallying, and if they could have just kept those roads closed, they're the most awesome sections you'll ever find. I mean, they really are good fun.
The rally had not been competitively fought due to the safety issues, and this reflected in the results. Nevertheless, Carl Tundo was the winner by 52 seconds. 27 minutes eventually separated the field of 20 finishers, of which 13 were in Subarus. The KCB Biashara Banking Rally would be a turning point for rallying in Kenya. Rallying on open roads must now be a thing of the past. In the Open Championship, Carl Tundo's win now places him equal first with Lee Rose, with Baldev Chaga only 10 points behind. The points tally in the Group N Championship are equally as close. Anthony Nielsen appears on the board for the first time in 5th place. With Ian Duncan not scoring any points in the Classic Car Cup, Aslam Khan has taken over the lead, which will now make the category interesting to watch. In the two-wheel drive championship, Jasmine Chana is dominant, but there are still 6 rounds for Charles Hinga to make his mark.